gives a fuck back before you're torn apart. You're packed with the devil, ain't stronger than the holy arts. And don't be trying to bring that shit in here where we operate the knowledge that inspires your darkest fears. You sit there bragging, wear some robe.
I love that one. The knowledge that inspires your darkest fears. That's so appropriate for the stream.
Well,
good morning. Afternoon.
Just so people know, for that track, it was literally written as a diss track for an internet troll that was trolling my wife, who whenever he looked at his Facebook page, he's one of those like Harry Potter wizard larper type people, and like he goes around and he had this
he dresses like a wizard in real life. That's his day-to-day life.
He's got like he had like long like back to his butt crack length hair, and like this long beard, and like and like all of his pictures on Facebook were all of him in these robes, and he was calling Lindsay just like, I don't even know how they weren't connected in any way. He just found her on Twitter and just started harassing her. And I got really mad, and I wrote that track because of it. And so the whole track was just like this kind of a joke track to kind of like, it was like my attempt at a diss track towards someone that probably never heard it, never will. But you know, that's that. But like I'll go ahead and go and mute so you can do your start of the show, and
well, no, I mean, I'm glad you're here. The topic today was going to be, what is it, conflict and trauma. So this is perfect because that was kind of a catch-all topic for really. I don't think we'll do a long stream today. Tonight's the Survivor finale. There's a lot going on this afternoon, and I think I'll just make a short little stream. So it was a way to check in and discuss what's been happening on the stream and kind of the future and direction of the stream, and tie it into, I know everyone has trauma here. And I know some of the conflict is, I mean, partially it's shit that's going on the panels, but part of it is the past traumas, like related experiences, similar experiences that we bring to the situation. So I thought it would be a good chance to talk about that. And in fact, Chris and I were having our conversation. We were supposed to have a conversation off stream and just kind of get to the bottom of what's been happening and what's going on. And we kind of did that. And as we were starting, Chris was kind of tying it to some trauma of his, and we decided to save it for the stream so we could have an example of this very topic. So I guess I'll bump it back to you.
Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, like I said, like I like in my personal, I've had, it's happened with literally over a dozen people in smaller ways, but at least I'd say 4 different people that were, it's like, to me, like whenever I consider someone to be a friend, like a real friend, if I actually call you like my friend and not just like someone I know, if like I might say friend is like in a casual offhand way, but if I say like, no, that person is my friend, that means like they're like they're like my blood. They're like family to me. I don't really make much distinction between that sort of thing. And in more than one, and in 4 separate occasions actually, I had. And I'm not gonna go into the details of it because because other people were involved. I don't think it's fair to.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just tell the part you need for the story.
Yeah. But I mean, but basically, like, you know, in some of these cases, they were very small things. In some of these cases, they were
things you were doing.
Well, no, I mean things that they had done, or things that like we had both made mistakes in some cases.
So it could come from either side, but there were little tiny things from one side.
In every single case of this all these things happened in my early 20s through to like around 30 or so. I think it was around 30 is whenever I really stopped. I stopped trying to. I kind of like changed my whole like approach to these sort of things. My whole approach to conflict resolution was always to deal with it head on, was never to like, you know, let anything stew or fester, because I felt like it was, and like, I don't know, it's just like, I don't know what taught me that early on, but you know, I mean, I managed a lot of places. I was a manager of a lot of places, you know, like whenever you manage a staff of people, like I learned really early on, you know, you don't call people, if someone's doing something wrong, you don't call them out in front of the whole staff. You take them to the side, you talk to them gently. You don't be like, you don't go out, you don't go off on them about, you don't yell at people about something like that. You try to talk to them as a human being, because you have to realize like they're also, you know, they're a person just like you are. Just because you're a manager, they're a staff member, you have to like treat them, realize that that they're a human being. They have, and that sometimes those people can be assholes, and like they can just be like, they can literally be doing it on purpose. But for the most part, like they don't know what they're doing. They don't realize they're doing those kind of things, you know. And so like I've always taken like that, really like that confidentiality kind of approach, and I've also believed in like in dealing with these things head
Hang
on.
You lost me in the story. I forgot the original point.
No, I'm just saying. I was just explaining the fact that like where my mentality for dealing with conflict comes from was from mostly from
you used to deal with it head on, which is my approach, the direct approach, catch it early, keep it from escalating, etc. And then at some point you switch to a more passive approach because of some traumatic experiences you've had with certain
at
people.
least more than a dozen, but with 4 specific and very people that were at the point in my life that they were like literally like I would consider them brothers or sisters.
Your
like
friend level.
They were family level. They were people that I would have trusted with my life. I would have trusted them implicitly beyond like the same way I would trust my mother or father.
I am.
Yeah, what's that?
I said you're way more trusting than I am. But yeah, I get what kind of people you're
well, okay, maybe that's being hyperbolic. I don't think it is, because I really.
But it's not germane to the story. I get the point that you're making with these people, and so
and
because of the experience with these people,
in every single case, I tried to, when the conflict would come up, I see with one guy in particular, one friend of mine. This is a guy like for 4 years, and we're living in Texarkana. I talked to this guy. I didn't just talk to this guy like every day. I hung out at his house like literally every night. I would drive almost an hour from my parents' house to his house almost every single night when he got off work. We'd sit on his porch and drink some cheap drinks or whatever, or drink just tea or whatever. We'd sit and smoke cigarettes, and we talk and we hang out, and that's all we would do. We would do that into the night, into like late hours. We did this every night. We were like, I mean, I considered him.
So y'all were y'all were close and friends.
We were like brothers, and like
okay.
we were
so what?
If
tell
you
me
saw
the
one of us,
experience.
you saw one, you saw the other, and a conflict came up. And a conflict came up that was actually very personal and involved my life, and it affected my life. And I did instead of being like, he kind of betrayed me in a kind of big way, and instead of cutting him out of my life right away, I sat down, I talked to him, I tried to talk it out with him, and like we did talk it out, and he was very like, and I thought everything was cool. And then later on, he got into this relationship with a married woman. And I had like one conversation with him. I was like, dude, like, I mean, like, I'm not telling you what to do, but like, I don't see good things coming from this from you. I feel like you're heading down. I feel like this is going a bad direction. I'm just really worried about you, and I really want to see you. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see what it feels like is coming here. And he was like, yeah, I think I know what you mean. You're probably right. And then halfway through the conversation, then he blew up at me and he said, like, you know what? Actually, fuck all that stuff I said. You just don't like seeing other people happy. You just want, if you see other people happy, and you want to make them as miserable as you are, which I wasn't miserable at the time at all. But I was like, okay, I don't know where that came from. And then we still kept talking. This was like an 8-hour conversation. I mean, seriously, like a full day's conversation. And at the end of it, we both walked away, and like we hugged, and like it was like, it was like, what, like, you're, I told him, like, I'm not telling you what to do, man. Do what's in your heart. Just understand, like, I'm just concerned about you. And he literally never spoke to me again, despite multiple attempts on my part, despite everything I could do.
Ghosted you after that?
The only time I talked to him was once when I actually showed up at his house. Whenever I saw that he was there outside, because like anytime I showed up at his house and knocked on his door, he just wouldn't answer.
So were the other incidents similar? Like you tried to confront people or express?
There was different things. Like there was one instance that's very different. One incident was very different from the rest of them, and that one's probably a lot. I probably shouldn't even include it in the list, but I do. And unless it's a guy I was really close to, and we worked together, and I helped him get this job at this place that I was working, for this vape place called La Sig and stuff like that. And I helped him get this job, and like one day we were on the drive, this like long way, it's an hour and a half, nearly 2 hour drive to the workplace, and we were driving back home, and we got this whole long conversation about like mental health and stuff like that. And I told him that, like, I gotta tell you, man, like sometimes like I worry that I'm like, I worry that I'm schizophrenic or something, because I have these thoughts sometimes that like that don't, I feel like something's like, something's wrong with me and all this stuff like that. And like I talk to my therapist, and like my therapist says like, you don't have any signs of it and stuff like that. And he was like, man, I know exactly what you feel. And he never talked to me again after that.
So that's not even something about himself. That's just opening up about your own self.
Yeah, that was just opening up about my own. And then there was 2 other incidents where it was like where I directly that aren't as major as those 2 that were, but they were still very close people to me that were I directly. Well, okay, one was the girl that lived here. As soon as she started like getting into drugs and stuff like that, as soon as she started doing stuff that was actually like was harmful to the household and the family, I immediately I very calmly and very, very calmly tried to address it with her, and not only did that go bad, it ended up like blowing up most of my life. And then there was a third incident with another male friend of mine that it just basically went very similar to the first one I mentioned, where like it actually wasn't, he didn't even do it. It wasn't even a betrayal or anything like that. It wasn't even that major. It was something very small, and something just like, I was like, man, like, I really appreciate if you wouldn't do that or say that anymore to me, because like it just made me feel uncomfortable. And like, do you mind? Like I was really, and I know for a fact, I remember this conversation like vividly in my memory. I was really humble about it. I was like, really like, I don't want to lose you as a friend. I just really would appreciate it. And in every case, they were always kind and like amenable to what I said, and they never spoke to me again. And they would literally they wouldn't answer their door, they wouldn't answer their phone, they just ghosted me completely. And that happened with other people that over lesser things too.
So these are the people I'm being compared to?
No,
this is your predictive model that is built.
This is the predictive model this is the model. This is the set of traumas that led to me being someone who, like, whenever those are the big ones, and then there was
have a less direct conflict.
There was a bunch of smaller ones that were more like some of the smaller conflicts we've had, where like I brought something up. It's mostly like coworkers or something like that, like, somebody that I worked with pretty closely or something like that. I'd be like, hey man, like could you like, can we like not do that anymore or whatever, like that kind of made me feel uncomfortable or something like that.
That would annoy me too.
Yeah, cool, man.
You and I would probably fight if you tried to tell me how to speak or what to do.
Well, it wasn't like tell them how to speak, what to do. I was just like, I said, like, if you couldn't say that kind of thing around me or something like that, I made it clear
take yourself somewhere else. Don't make everybody else stop
we
what they're doing.
We work together, and if you work together somewhat with someone in close quarters, you don't.
That don't mean they have to change their life to accommodate a fussy.
It wasn't like, it wasn't asking them to change their life. It was.
We would fight. We're already fighting over it. We definitely would.
It was actions that they did, and things that they said that were like, they literally made like insulting comments towards me, and I asked them.
Locus of control. I think you should handle that, not them. Why would you give them the power? Not only do they have the power to push your button, but then they have the power to like determine whether they want to be the solution.
Which is exactly
right away from them.
That is the exact conclusion I came to. I came to that exact conclusion, that those kind of things even though I thought that it was better to try to like bring these things up and resolve them whenever if I felt bad about something or something,
like in the moment.
Instead of bringing it up, instead of doing something that's going to make someone feel like they're being policed or whatever thing like that, instead I would simply just stop. I would simply not say anything. I would stop entirely. Unless it was something that was majorly affecting my life, unless it was something that was actually like impacting me on a visceral level, I just let things go. I learned to take those things in stride and just be like, you know what, it's okay. It's just work. It's just this. It's just that. Sticks and stones. Blah blah blah. You can say a lot of different ways. And I would just be like, you know what, it's okay. It wasn't. It's not worth. It's not worth like even like. It's not worth bringing up.
But it obviously wasn't okay because it built up anyway, and it did affect you. It didn't roll off. To give the viewers some context.
Okay, well, then you tell me, Jeff, what's the right response? Because one way I just said when I tried to bring it up, and you said like
you never brought it up. The first time I was hearing it was yesterday. So like, what is this? When the first time the whole point of yesterday's conversation was how you didn't bring it up any of those times. I'm talking
about with the other person. I just said like I tried to bring this with the word.
Well, we can get to that. Let me give the audience some context so they can catch up to where we are in the conversation. One of the issues that came up is that because Chris and I were collaborating very well together, and in my mind, we were still like we were a strong team, and we had a good communication, everything. And it turns out there were things about me, the way I say things, my personality. I'm dismissive sometimes, sarcastic, etc., which I've gotten my whole life, but I wasn't aware that Chris was experiencing it because he never brought it up. And then yesterday it kind of all came out. And so he's trying to say the reason he didn't bring it up, because originally he had a conflict resolution style that would bring it up when it happened and when it started to affect him. But because of his experiences with these people, he switched to this more kind of just don't say anything, let it roll off thing, which that makes sense. Like from an emotional trauma perspective, that has a logic to it. But the thing is, it didn't roll off. It did build up, and it affected our ability to work together. And it got us to kind of where we were yesterday. And then I have my own trauma, which I could share as well, that impacted how I experienced yesterday, because it was repeating a very familiar pattern to me as well.
Absolutely.
Hey, Cynthia. What's up? We're talking about trauma.
I'll just to finish my previous thought, just so I don't lose it, was just that like I'm just a little confused by your messaging there because like you just told me that like you would feel the same way if I brought something like that I brought to my coworker, and that caused a rift there, even though I was very diplomatic and I was very gentle about it. I was like, hey, don't you ever say that to me again. And don't talk to me like that, motherfucker. I was like, hey, dude, could you not say that? Like, it just makes me feel weird, like this, like he was like he's the kind of guy.
If it was you telling me how to talk on my panel, yeah, absolutely, we would.
Okay,
fight.
This was two people at work,
but the rift would come from you. It would be you trying to be a Karen and telling me what to do, and me saying no, and then you having a rift over that, because I would be fine. The minute I said no, it'd be over for me. So the rift would be on your end. You would take it.
Okay.
It would carry further inside of you than it did in me.
He thought it was really hilarious to call people faggot.
Okay.
And he'd call me faggot constantly, and he said it around a lot of other people. That didn't actually bother me, but I specifically had a very close gay female coworker who was very offended by it, and she really was being upset by it, and therefore it made me uncomfortable overall in the situation. And I brought that up, and once again never spoke again. So it was like, and that was actually the last one. That was at Amazon, and that was like so I already had kind of like I'd already adopted like a more lackadaisical laissez-faire kind of like style approach to these kind of things, where I didn't let things get to me, and I let them roll off my back, like, water off of a duck's back kind of thing. I just like I didn't
But
like
they didn't roll, whatever it was about me didn't roll off because it kept building up.
But honestly, it did though. It did. Like, I mean, the only reason it got brought up was
yesterday and this morning.
The only reason it got brought up is because of where that argument went and how far the argument went, and it shouldn't have gotten that far, and that's mostly my fault, and I take responsibility for that.
I'm confused. Was it built up or not? Because that was the message I got all day yesterday and this morning until now.
I mean, like, there was a lot of little things, but they didn't really. Until like that moment.
And also, like, what's added to this is that Lib was saying the exact same thing, and other people. Right. And you mentioned the comment, like there's some commenters that have been saying the same thing, but they're not saying anything specific that I can learn from. They're just, it's all vague stuff to me.
Okay.
But the point is, whatever it is, there's obviously something there for some people. It built up despite the attempt to let it roll off.
Right. I guess you
and it didn't get communicated, and then that broke the trust with me, because I thought we had this amazing line of communication and we were being transparent, because I say all the time on here, that's one of my basic principles, is how transparency creates trust. That's why I try to be open and transparent with everything to build that trust. And I thought we had all that, and then I found out there was all this stuff about me that I wasn't aware of that was affecting you, and I didn't know anything about it, and it was affecting you for a while, and it was affecting the stream, and it was affecting our ability to work together and communicate, and I had no clue.
You've been in long-term relationships, Jeff. You've been in long-term relationships before, like romantic relationships.
Yeah.
Have you never been in a romantic relationship situation where the two of you get into a fight, and something that and because they say something that and then when they say that, something that honestly doesn't really bother you in general, but you know that it's there, so it's like your defense mechanism to like come back with that, to come back with like the thing that something that doesn't really bother you that much, but like you bring it up in that moment because you feel attacked and you're being defensive. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I think kind of, sort of, but less so in relationships, that just like friends and coworkers and stuff.
More, okay, well,
like,
friends and coworkers.
I can see doing it with that more than with somebody that I was closer to.
I mean, I've been in relationship. I've been in arguments with my wife and stuff where like things that honestly on a daily basis don't actually affect me at all. But like, you know, in the certain things where like if she says one thing, she'll say
people
like
hurt me, I know how to hurt them. I know how to come back.
Right. And
so if I feel attacked, I definitely know how to bring the knives.
I'm not proud. I'm not proud, and I'm not defending myself for bringing that shit up. For bringing that up, but at the time I felt very attacked, and I felt like you were saying that like I was diminishing or dismissing your feelings and all this stuff like that, and my reaction was
like, you over and over you were.
Okay, well,
we talked about that.
I didn't actually realize that
I do want to make a point real quick as an aside. If somebody is sharing some kind of trauma or having a traumatic reaction in the moment and the emotions get intense, the absolute worst thing you could do is to tell them to stop being emotional or calm down or whatever, because that makes it about what they're trying. It moves it about what they're trying to express, which is the important thing. They want to be heard, to how they're saying it, and it makes it about them and their emotions. And yesterday, the exact point where Chris started to do that is the point where they start to escalate, because that's what happened. That's going to cause it to escalate more. Your attempt to make it about the emotion and get them to suppress their emotion is only going to intensify that emotion. It's going to have the opposite effect. So that's what happened yesterday. And I just want to make a point, like a good trauma tip, whatever, is if somebody is in that state, just sit with the emotion, tolerate it, let them have it. They're obviously having it for a reason, because the trauma was very intense for them. and don't try to let the emotion hijack the important thing, which is them getting in touch with and being able to express that trauma. So I just want to throw that in. Okay, back to you.
I 100% agree with everything you just said. First of all, I like unequivocally, I agree with everything you just said. I don't have no caveats of that. I was wrong in saying in trying to say you're being overly emotional. It was certainly the wrong words to use, and it was the wrong way to do it in general. But what I was trying to get out was like, I feel like we're getting too intense about something about a T. In my mind at the time, like it happened pretty fast, and in my mind at the time, I'm thinking like, we're talking about a TV show. Like, why is this getting so?
I wasn't talking about a TV show,
Yeah,
and I couldn't understand why you couldn't understand what I was talking about.
You were seeing it from. You were talking about the effect it had on you, and in my mind, I was thinking about a TV show, and so like, so those two things conflicted, and I reacted in a way that was not only just ill-advised, but it was just stupid and was very was detrimental, and it had an ultimately just fully negative effect. I absolutely own up to that, and I absolutely own up to the fact that I was wrong in doing so. It's not something that normally I try to, but I unfortunately am one of those stupid fucking human people that just like, I get in those situations where like intense emotions come at me and I react with intense emotions, and I'm not proud of it, and I'm not happy about the way I reacted. I am actually embarrassed somewhat to a great degree. I was whenever I had the sunglasses on, but
you were pre-funking too the whole morning.
What's that?
And I said you were pre-funking too the whole morning. You had
I woke up coughing really bad. I had a really bad cough. I took some cough medicine.
Okay. So it was Granny's elixir then.
Yeah, I took some Robitussin, and it got the cough to go away.
Oh Lord, well, say no more. That adds context too. But okay, I'm confused because I really am trying to understand the thing you're saying about all the build up and all that. Are you because yesterday and today, I'm thinking that this is an issue that's between us that I was not aware of, and now I'm becoming aware of. But are you saying that it's not an issue? You just threw it up yesterday out of emotion, like the kitchen sink type of thing, but I shouldn't really pay attention to it because it's not an issue after all? I think it is an issue because there has been something like I noticed different between us for a while.
Yeah, there's been something different with me lately. I have definitely
with you, and I've talked about it several times on here, and I've even tried to give you things you can.
I've not been in a great emotional place because like things have not been going great, and like I'm separated from my family to a large degree, and I'm doing everything I can to try to like fix that, and it hasn't, and I keep running into obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and you are someone I consider one of my best friends. I do care about you deeply, and like, so like, whenever that it started getting to that point, I used very wrong terminology, but like
it's not the term, like it's not the terminology or anything. I want to make sure that the content of it, that the stuff you're saying, that all this stuff that happened over the last few months for me is a real thing. Like it's something that we
occasionally, but I don't think that it's anything you do intentionally, or I don't
think is it something you threw in just to score a point in the heat of the moment, or is it an actual issue like you presented it as all day yesterday and all morning?
No, I was trying to explain where that came from this morning before we got on the stream, but I never actually got.
I am more concerned, Chris. The whole point of this stream, I'm trying to design it to help people, and for a while, it seemed like you and other people were coming here, and they were actually getting some kind of help or improve, like their lives were improving, or their stress or mental health or something. They were connecting with people. They were talking. It looked like it was doing a good thing for a while. Now, after this like other side of it that I wasn't aware of, I'm concerned that they might be getting help, but they're getting harmed somewhere in the process too. Like they're getting made miserable or terrorized by my personality or the way I say things or my dismissiveness or sarcasm or something. So I want to make sure that it's still doing what I'm trying to get it to do, is just help people, and they're not. But also, if they're masochistic enough to come and receive that kind of treatment and still show up every day and stick around, I'm not going to take full accountability for that. That's like when I tell people, if you're having a negative experience on the stream, leave the stream. Like the minute you leave and come back, you're not a victim anymore. So even if all this stuff was happening and you were just silently sitting on it and taking it and taking it and taking it, that's on you too. Or anybody else that I've been making.
On me.
Yes, the idea is that people come and they get the help when it's there, and then if at some point it becomes not helpful, that they remove themselves from the situation, and that they only come when it's helpful, and then they stay away when it's not helpful. But that wasn't happening. People were coming for the help, and at the same time they were getting impacted.
I don't think that overall the stream has been having a negative impact on the audience as a whole. I really don't believe that.
After what happened with Lib and you yesterday, that is not my takeaway. That I'm very concerned, and I need to figure this out before I try to do anything else with this stream. And that's why I want to talk about like the pretend, like the trauma reasons behind it as well, because my trauma is this is the exact pattern that led to my last firing and some of the firings before that. This is the cancel culture and the drama triangle in action. And my last job, I swear to God, I thought I had found the perfect workplace ever, the perfect team. At Christmas, I lost my job in February. That Christmas before, our boss was handing out bonus checks. For the first time in my life, I had gotten a bonus check and telling us what an amazing team we are. She called us our dream team. I had no clue that there was shit under the surface because I don't pick up on that. And then like a few weeks later, the coworker who was a friend of mine, we were friends. And I'm the one that got him hired. I helped him get the job, and I kind of onboarded him and mentored him. And then over time, he had built up, and he wasn't doing his self-care. He was slipping back into old patterns. His stress levels were increasing, and all of a sudden, he started having these issues with me. And next thing you know, one day I'm getting called into a room with my boss, the director, my supervisor, the office manager, my coworker, and another guy who was the manager at another location. So all these people are sitting around a table, and I'm presented with this list of things that I'm doing to make this guy feel unsafe at work that I had no clue was happening. And it was a 7-hour meeting. We didn't get out of there till 8:00 at night of her trying to get me to sign this employment agreement to keep my job and me refusing. And that's what this felt like. Yes, like all of a sudden, I thought we had this amazing team. Me, you, and Lib were three of the closest working people I thought in the Panelverse, and the amount of stability we were able to bring to this stream over the amount of time that we did. Then I found out there's all this buildup. Then all of a sudden, I'm being set up as the call, like it's because of me and my personality and the effect I'm having on people, et cetera, just like with the coworker. The only thing different this time is there's no director to go to empower it. The buck has to stop with me. So that's my trauma that's being activated from this conflict.
Let me try.
And yours is your experience with these people when you try to express issues.
Let me try to alleviate you of that somewhat. I do not feel in any way, shape, or form that that the buck stops with you, that this is entirely something of your own.
Well, as far as the panel, I'm accountable and responsible for what happens with this channel. Like, it's only registered under one name, and I'm sorry, but YouTube it has it under my name. Like, I am ultimately responsible for what happens on this channel. It goes on my record. And as far as the future of the channel and my mission and what I'm trying to do with it, I've been clear from the start what that is, and I need to make sure this channel stays aligned with that. And it seemed, that's another thing. It seemed like you and I were very aligned on this mental health mission for a while and this community building. And somewhere along the way, I thought I was on the same track that you and I were on, but you didn't seem to be on it anymore. And it seemed like we weren't even on the same page about that. And suddenly I was having to like fight and struggle with you just to get mental health stuff on and just to get community, like stuff that was good for the community. Like, you became part of the resistance instead of the collaborator that you started as. And I assume some of that was part of like the way I was affecting you and my personality. Like it was like, I didn't know you felt that way. For that. Yeah, I've talked to you about that before.
Well, you talk about me like my state being somewhat deteriorated and
yeah, for a while now, I don't feel like we've been aligned.
You had mentioned that you felt like I was a hindrance to the channel. I did not know you felt that way. You've never mentioned that before to me. Just
not that you're a hindrance, although sometimes I do feel like you're the adversarial element in moments that I have to fight. Like when I'm trying to shift the topic to a mental health topic and I have to like wrestle it from you, etc., instead of having us both be like, oh right, mental health topic, that's what we want to prioritize here, that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, I didn't know I did that wasn't something I was aware as I was doing, and I didn't
like again. I address it every time in the moment. It happens in the moment because we usually end up tussling over it when it comes up, and there was just a pattern of it. I'm like, I'm having to wrestle with Chris an awful lot for somebody that I thought we were on the same page and the same mission about what we were doing here, and it's just weird to me that we're battling over stuff that like fundamental values that I thought we were both prioritizing, like mental health and community building. And then what's good for the stream, which is part of the community building, which is part of the mental health.
Sorry, just give me a second. I'm a little emotional.
All right, I'm gonna go get a refill anyway. If you think you can keep it going for a few minutes.
I mean, I'll be here.
Okay. Maybe, I don't know. Should we play one of your songs?
No, just go get a refill. I'll say something.
I'll be.
But everything I have to say, I have to say to you, so I don't feel like there's. I'll try to adjust the chat some. Check. Yes, I've had one of those meetings. I've had several of those meetings before myself that were, 6-7 hours long. Before I've been in the same situation that Jeff has been there. Not all of them ended up with me being fired. Well, they did ultimately end up with me being fired, but maybe not that day. I might have gotten let go like a month later, but it was all stemmed from that. So
all right.
Yeah. I'm not. I want to make sure I'm being clear of the fact that I'm not trying to make any grand defense of myself for yesterday. I really didn't. It came across to me really suddenly that this was. It didn't really come across to me that the stream was almost over. That it was about something more than a TV show, and that's entirely on me. That's my own blindness and my own lack of ability to pick up on things. I wasn't picking up on that. I wasn't picking up on the seriousness with which this show had affected you. It didn't. The same way that you sometimes misread cues about things about emotional things.
I didn't pick up on any of the stuff you and Liv would be telling me, so I definitely don't. I miss a lot. I do.
Yeah. Now, and in terms of the stuff that a lot of the stuff, like I said, all of the stuff that I know, that I mentioned earlier, and so that there were all those little things, but to me, to be perfectly honest, they were little things, and they weren't.
But it's like 1,000 paper cuts. At some point, the relationship suffers. even if it's not.
Yes, but like I didn't feel nothing about. I wasn't upset in any way towards you.
Well, it didn't seem that way because our ability to work together had changed. I'm less concerned about yesterday than whatever happened because we were such a great team and we had this magic for a while, and then at some point that stopped happening, and apparently it was because of these little paper cuts that kept coming from me.
Believe me, it's not like those little things
okay, a combination of that and stressors in your life and your self-care, like your
yes. And I mean, it's like it's things that are on a smaller scale from like the fairy story thing. It's the same thing as that. It's the same thing as that. What happened there? Just like a lot of them are much smaller and much less like pronounced.
People said that was some of our best content ever.
Yes, people have mentioned it.
We should clip it, and that should be what goes viral.
And you know, maybe there's a good point there, and I have no problem with that. I have no problem with.
Plus, okay, you know, Chris, read the description. That's another thing. I thought this was an unsafe space.
Right.
Like people are going to get hurt here. I thought the point was that we talk through it and stuff. And
Me
people
too.
are not talking through it. They're staying in an unsafe space where they're constantly getting hurt. But then don't complain about it because you're here every day in an unsafe space. Well, you know about the little "you have to be this tall to ride the ride" sign. So I feel like some values that I had tried to set early, some different values are being smuggled in here too, by you and Lib, with an expectation of a safety that this was never designed to provide. Because we were supposed to be able to deal with the raw shit here.
And sure, and I take responsibility for my part, not just my part, but in not reacting or
I don't want this getting feminized, and that's what I think is happening. Like there's there's masculine, there's ways I would deal with this with men, and there's ways that I would deal with it with women, and it feels like the female way of doing things and values is coming in. Might be what's at conflict.
I understand. Like I'm talking like this. I'm being very careful with my words and stuff because I feel like, you know, my friendship and my partnership with you is threatened right now, and I'm trying very hard to navigate.
I don't think the friendship is. I seriously don't, Chris. I like you. I enjoy hanging out with you. We watch movies together. We laugh. I think that's all intact. What's at stake for me is the trust of the communication and the ability to work together, collaborate, and get that streaming magic back. But the friendship, I think, is fine. So let me just take that off your plate.
Okay.
Worry about.
Okay. Well, that is helpful then. I am, if I'm talking in a way you feel like I mean, I have always been said to have a strong feminine side anyway, I guess, but a lot of it is just that I don't want to carelessly say like the wrong word and cause like another like cataclysm. I'm just trying to like make sure that
don't do that. Just I'm fine. Seriously, please just get it out and speak from whatever's coming up.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, it's easy to say that though, but then once you've already,
I'm serious. I look. If I have any kind of reaction, I make an agreement right here. I will turn my camera off and go on mute, and I will just sit here. And I will let you get it out.
But even that, I don't even want to see that happen. It's not even that. It's like,
what do you want to just do it off stream?
I'm saying it's beyond my conscious mind at this point. Like there's trauma aspects to it that I can't like fully control. But I can still talk through it. I think this is important to do on stream anyway because this is about conflict resolution and resolution, and I think this is a good
do what you're comfortable with and don't push past where you're comfortable. Just I'll let you set the pace, and I'll take my cue from you.
It's like I said, like all of those little things. Like now, the things that like that with Lib. Those things really did build up for him, I guess. And like I said, I only had the one conversation with him, so he hasn't spoken to me since the night.
Okay.
But I had the one conversation after that stream. All those things with Lib, like it really, I guess, according to like when you talk to him, like when I talked to him, it was a slightly different situation. But like when you talk to him, it seemed like it was a lot of things that built up and caused like these, more major, things. To me, like I didn't really feel like anything was building up. The only reason I brought up or said any of the things I said was because in the moment I felt attacked, and I felt like I was being attacked on something that I kind of brush off all the time. So I brought it up, and I shouldn't have. It's a cheap, petty tactic that honestly that cowards and children use, and I'm not at all. I'm embarrassed of myself for having acted that way. However, that is what happens. So that it is what it is. I at this point, I don't think that there's any real reason to. I mean, if I can get myself through the next couple of months and actually get some kind of movement resolution in my life going, like where I can actually move forward, like where I can get, I can have my kid here, I can get a refrigerator, all those kind of things. If I can fix those things, that's on me. That's not on anybody else. That's on me, by the way. I'm not. This isn't me. I don't make sure the chat knows that I'm not here like, please send me money. I'm not saying that. I don't give a shit about that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like I've got to find a way to deal. As Jordan Peterson said, I've got to find a way to clean my room and deal with my own shit in a way that is, that lets me be able to be
definitely clean your room. At least that.
I mean, I actually have cleaned my room, but
okay.
I meant that.
I'm being joking, but not at the same time. But
I mean that the metaphorical sense of like, of clean up your own, take the
the Jordan Peterson
remove
version.
the plank from your own eye before you worry about the speck in your partner's eye or whatever, right?
Clean your own commode for a change before you run your white glove over somebody else's.
Exactly.
Toilet.
Yeah. Exactly. Same thing.
Yeah.
Like people that live in glass houses should throw stones. Blah blah blah. It's all that shit. Like if I can, like, a lot of my problem is that, like, it's not unfortunately 100% up to me. If it was entirely up to me, if I am taking actions, and I am doing things to move myself, trying to move forward in a positive way, but I can't say that those things have been entirely fruitful so far. But nonetheless, I'm still trying. And if I can get past that kind of stuff, like I will. I'm asking for some grace, I guess. I'm basically asking for a little forgiveness.
I don't know what that is. I'm a Satanist. I don't know what grace is.
Well, grace isn't necessarily a Christian concept. It's just
I know, but when you say you want grace, what is that? Translated into something that some Greek or
understanding, forgiveness, mercy.
Oh, understanding. I'm definitely interested in giving that.
Understanding, mercy, forgiveness. That's what I mean by grace.
I don't care about any of that stuff. I care about practical solutions to what does this mean for the stream? Like,
right, okay.
We either there's some way for us to get back on track, or maybe just do our own thing for a while, or like just collaborate here and there. It's just like, I'm more logistic oriented of what does this mean for the stream? What do you need from me? I want to be the least amount of stress in your life. You have all this other stuff going. I don't want to add to that. And so if streaming with me every day, building something up, I want to minimize that.
I center my life around the stream. So like, I mean, I don't want to lose that.
Yeah, but look, I'm just going by the past few months. It was working for a while. It was healthy. And it was helping you, but something happened.
And what has happened has not been your fault, Jeff.
But some of it has been. I contributed to it
in the
little ways you described, the little paper cut ways.
Minor ways. It's not. It's.
But really it was enough. It wasn't. I don't think it's as minor as you think. because you're not the only person saying it. You're not the only person it's coming from, and I've heard it before. So I know that it's something that tends to affect a lot of people, like certain types of people. I know this about myself. It's cost me jobs.
Of all the people in the panelverse that have affected me in any slight, even the tiniest bit negatively, which has been very few, which honestly has not been a very large group of people considering the people we've interacted with. If you would be a blip on that list at the very bottom. Honestly, things like he shall not be named, like, in his whole, like, you know, trying to like go after my wife thing, that really pushed me a lot. You know, like kind of like losing people that I thought were becoming good friends of mine, that like over like silly like stream things and stuff like that.
Over him?
What?
Over
Not
him?
Not him, but I'm saying his thing going after my wife did really trigger me in a way that, like,
I didn't even know that. This is the first time hearing that. That's how broken down the communication.
Yes, we did the panty thing.
You acted like it was. You even laughed. You're like, "Oh, that's no big deal." Lindsay's done work.
It wasn't a big deal to her, but it made me angry at him. And I
got associated with that because I kept having him on the stream.
No, not really. I didn't really associate.
I thought that's what you said earlier. Was one of the turning points
for like
because
2 seconds.
I didn't listen to everybody's vibes, and I treated him the same way I treat everybody else that people had come to with vibes.
For like 2 seconds, but I let go of that. I don't really hold on to that. It bothered me that, like, it bothered me because it wasn't, you know, if it was her own activity that brought it on herself, you know, like, then I'd be there for her, but like I would understand where it came from. But the fact that, you know, she was like she was collateral damage and like in a thing that
right. But you're in the panelverse, and you're in. I go back to the unsafe space thing. There's a certain risk here.
There is,
and you're right. Like anybody on this stream or any YouTube stream, you know, there's people out there potentially that's clipping you, restreaming you, commenting about you, making shorts, whatever. Like, look what they do with Talcott. They have that Talcott channel that uses him in all those movie spoofs. Yeah. So anybody has the potential for somebody to take their image, content, words on here and do hateful, ugly things with it.
Absolutely.
Or troll things. I've had this happen to me in the 2000s when I was on AOLgay.com. I talk about someone made an imitation profile of me with my picture and my exact screen name and went in the chat rooms, and it had a bullseye over my face and it said shoot here. So people were doing that shit even before we have the technology that we have today. So there's a risk of being in these environments. And if you draw the wrong attention from the wrong crazy at the wrong time, any of us can be exposed to that. And that's not even just a my channel thing.
I 100% agree. I don't think that.
And so I think Stephen was a good lesson and a good wake-up call in that. Welcome to the panelverse. Welcome to the environment that you're choosing to spend your time in.
I somehow had like deceived myself into thinking that because I'd been doing this for long enough and I hadn't had that kind of thing happen, that I deceived myself somewhat into thinking that, like, maybe, you know, like, it's not like maybe, but like I didn't think about it being like, you know, something that was going to, you know, and it honestly didn't hurt Lindsay. Lindsay was fine. Like, it made me mad for her, you know.
I understand that. I would probably feel the same way.
I mean, she honestly didn't care. She honestly didn't give a shit. She laughed. She literally did laugh about it. I laughed with her about it, but deep down, it made my blood boil.
That's what he wants. That's exactly his magic word.
I know, and I hate that. The fact that, like, it made me feel like he won. You know, it made me feel like, you know, that, like, it made me feel like, it made me feel like he won. Like, I was like, that made it even worse. It was like shit. Not only did, like, that happen, but you know, he actually managed to get the reaction out of me he wanted. Like, that made me more mad. That's beside the point. I'm just saying. I'm just explaining that, like, I'm saying, like, of the people that have in the panelverse that have affected me negatively and or have upset me, you don't even make, like, you wouldn't even make the top 10, Jeff. You're not even, you're not even
it was
like
enough to impact our working relationship. So however slight it was, it something changed between us.
I mean, probably just that. If anything changed, it was just that one day with
no, Chris. You spent all last night, all day today, talking about this long timeline of buildup. You even said yesterday hundreds of streams. So,
if I said
like,
100, I'm sorry.
make the wheel stop on a single thing. Either it was one thing or it was this series of little paper cuts, like you kept describing it all day today.
If I said 100 streams yesterday, I was emotional in the moment and being hyperbolic, and I apologize for that. There's definitely not been 100 streams like that. That is ridiculous. I think what I meant, I think what I was trying to say, if I said 100 streams, I didn't say there's hundreds of hours of streams to go through, and okay. Where there's little moments peppered throughout them. And I do remember, like, in my mentality, what I was trying to say with that didn't come across right either. I was trying to say that we stream every day, and it amounts to hundreds of hours. The number of times that you've done something that felt dismissive or hurtful towards me, it's such a minuscule amount of the times that
I know, but it was enough to have an effect. Like, don't minimize it if it's one of the things that caused our relationship to change. Like, I'm getting two messages. This is what happened. And at the same time, it's not a big deal. Don't even worry about it. I can't do both. I can't worry about the source of why we can't work together like we used to, and at the same time, not worry about it, not care about it because it's so small. My brain is about to explode. My little autistic brain cannot do that.
I don't think that the first thing you just said of those two statements is true, though. I don't think that we can't. I don't believe that there is a situation where we can't.
Yeah, Provo, I agree. Come up and add some spice to it. We need you.
Yeah, please. Somebody come in and add some interference to this. Like come tell me where I'm wrong.
Yeah, I agree, Provo. That is the solution, actually. That is the solution. That's what I said yesterday. If you don't like it, just go find another stream. I don't even know why I'm indulging it now. That is a testament to my friendship with Chris.
This is a stream about conflict resolution, so we were trying to.
You're right. Hopefully, it will help somebody. But the resolution that I hope they come to is exactly what Provo just said. Get the fuck over it.
And I agree with that. That has been my philosophy for a long time. That's the reason why I adopted the philosophy I did, was because I felt like the best possible course of action in those situations was to get the fuck over myself and not to take those things as being like either personal slights or taking them too personally.
I know, but then you let your self-care plummet down the commode, and your sensitivity and your resiliency and all that went with it. And so every little paper cut became like a chainsaw at that point.
Right. Yeah, I get that. But
that's also on you.
I'm not all. Yes, it is on me, but it's not also something that I can completely control.
Well, you do control your level of self-care. Yes, you do. Every person is responsible for their own emotional, emotional grooming, just like we are for our own physical grooming.
Can I admit something?
If not you, then who?
Can I admit something real fast?
Okay, real fast.
I mean, no, seriously. This is serious.
Confess, child. Go ahead.
This isn't a joke. When people tell me self-care, I really don't know what that means. I don't know how to self-care. I really don't know how. I know people have given me examples of it before, examples of what self-care is or should mean, but they're all things that I am apparently terrible at, and I don't know how. I guess maybe I just don't know how to self-care. I don't know how to. For me, the panel was kind of self-care, or it actually is still currently to this day self-care.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's affecting your stress levels too.
When I don't stream, I feel much more stressed. I can say that much.
Well, then what's all this buildup? Like, something negative is building up from your experience here. which I didn't know was happening, and you should be handling on your end. If you're having a negative experience, you should be taking care of that. Either talking to me about it, staying off the stream, doing diet, exercise, meditation, whatever like recharges you and keeps you at your baseline, at like a healthy functioning baseline, where you're not sinking into depression or sinking into apathy or learn helplessness.
I know it's not something that is probably going to be accepted, but I mean, honestly, for me, like yesterday, it wasn't really about the buildup of all those things. It was, in my mind, I was talking about a TV show. You were talking about something that affected you deeply from an emotional trauma level, and I didn't realize it. And I was inadvertently being an asshole because I was talking about it in a condescending and dismissive way, and therefore it turned into an argument where I ended up saying things that I shouldn't have said, and I regret saying, and now I feel like, and I don't have much more I can do besides be sorry about it, which I know sorries are worthless, is the paper you wipe your ass with. I know that, but that's the way it is. I mean, it really wasn't like for me, yesterday wasn't a buildup of 1,000 cuts or anything. Yesterday
That's what you said. That's what you said all day yesterday and all day today. So the story keeps changing. And Dahlia, it depends on what you mean by call you out. I don't remember saying that I want people to call me out. I usually don't want people to call me out. I want them to mind their own business and let me mind mine. If by call out you mean police, tone of voice, emotion level, conversation style, how much you interrupt or cut somebody off, no, I don't want them to call me out on that at all. The stuff I want them to call me out on is anything that they think is important to tell me, like things that are building up, and they don't tell me anything specific. Okay, that's my frustration, is supposedly I'm doing all of this horrible, vague, ambiguous stuff that nobody can point to or express in a concrete matter. It's not the calling out. It's that the communication is not giving me anything I can identify or work with. No. And that could be my end too. Yeah, exactly. I want them, like, the reason I'm so blunt and direct is because that's what has helped me growing up my whole life, is the people that can pull me aside and be really blunt about the things I'm not noticing, and like big highlight yellow marker with big red arrows pointing to it so I can get it in my brain. Like I need it lit up in neon. That blunt and direct. That's my little half retarded brain needs that level. And I don't get that. I get vague hints, ambiguous stuff, like, oh, you know what you're talking about. We shouldn't have to tell you. People have told you before. You know that. I get that kind of stuff. I don't get helpful, useful feedback. Not that I'm going to change anyway, because my response is going to be, if you don't like it, go find people that you like to hang around. I want the people here that enjoy being around me. And if they don't like me, why are they here? Don't hang out with someone and then try to fix them and change them the whole time. Again, that's like a female approach too. I am dismissing the things I'm talking about. I'm dismissing the trying to change me. I'm dismissing the tone policing. I'm dismissing the emotion. I'm dismissing all of that stuff. If he has something concrete, I don't dismiss that. We talked all morning, Chris and I, and he gave me some concrete things, and none of that got dismissed. So I think, I don't know, let's just keep talking, and we can talk off stream and whatever. My biggest concern is whatever happened with us to derail, because the whole stream to me was riding on that collaborative synergy that the two of us had between us. And to me, it changed on your end, and I'm willing to accept that it's some things about me that contributed to that. I'm just trying to figure out if it's if we can restore something. But I gotta be honest, for me, the trust is like I it's very hard for me to get trust back after it's broken. And the trust that those open lines of communication were there when they weren't is that's gonna be the barrier for me.
If at any point prior to the argument yesterday, if at any point prior to that, any of these little things like you're saying that you feel like your trust trait about had been like serious issues for me, I really would have brought them up, but I didn't think any of them. I most of it, I literally just like that's just Jeff. That's just Jeff being Jeff.
Well,
Jeff,
something, Chris. Here's where I'm at, and we'll have this conversation later. Something changed between us. If it wasn't that, that's the only thing you've given me so far. Then it was something else that we need to figure out what that is. So let's just leave it there for today. And I want to talk about what Dahlia's saying because I think I'm kind of starting to understand. So yes, I do. If I don't care if people tell me what's bothering them or not. My life's going to be fine one way or the other. But if they want to tell me what's bothering them, I am interested in it, and I am interested in like collaborating on a solution if there is one. So if something's bothering people about me, I want them to feel like they can come and tell me about it. I feel like I have a very open, like anybody can come and talk to me about anything. I'm always willing to listen, and I try to understand. Okay. So they tell me what's bothering them. Now there's two categories of that. Some of it is useful things that I can learn from and do something with. And some of it is things like tone of voice, emotion, interrupting. They don't like the way I run my panels, et cetera, or they don't like my personality. That second category is when I tell them if they don't like it, leave. So there's one category where I try to understand and learn. And there's one category where it's like, oh, okay, if that's all that's bothering them, that's something that they can take care of on their end with an internal locus of control by managing the environments that they choose to place themselves in or the people that they choose to expose themselves to. So I guess, does that help it a little bit? There's like two categories of feedback, and I have a different reaction to each one depending on what it is. Okay. So I think that's probably good for today. I'm going to take tomorrow off. I'm going to take a YouTube free day. I'm just going to take a whole day off of YouTube. I haven't had that, I think, since I started this whole stream. So I'm just going to do a personal reset. I will be back on Friday. I think Friday I will just do a general open panel. I won't try to do a topic or anything. And we'll just go from there. But I think continuing to have conversations like this and keep talking and figuring out what the issue is and what, if anything, we can do about it is probably the way to go. Do you have any thoughts you want to end with?
I don't know. I mean, if you feel like you need to end it here, that's fine. I respect.
Well, I don't know. Do you want to keep?
I don't know. I feel like we're.
I feel like we've reached a point where we have something to go on for a further conversation. Like we've come to a good point where we kind of know what direction to go next. But I don't know if trying to do it all today on the stream is the right thing to do either.
I mean, sure. I mean, that's how you feel, man.
But like if you have something you want to continue to talk about, I'm willing to.
No, it's nothing specific. I feel like there's a lot more that could be said, but like most of it isn't like probably what you think I would probably be saying, because like I feel a lot of guilt, a lot of shame for the way I reacted yesterday. I didn't, like I said, like when I just want to reiterate the fact that yesterday really wasn't for me. It wasn't really a buildup of things. Those things only came out because of the pressure of, I felt like I was being attacked, and I reacted in defense, and it was a childish, petty thing to do, and I'm very ashamed.
Okay, then I'm very confused because you've You've said it was two opposite things.
Okay,
you spent a lot of time saying like that it was a buildup, and that's one thing that impacted the relationship between
I know,
us.
but
And
also,
then it's this little thing you threw out yesterday, and that's all it was. So I personally, my sense of it is there was a buildup, and you're trying to minimize it, but the buildup was there because I noticed a change in you as well, and kind of like a drift or a pull away. So the fact that there was something about me that built up is credible to me, more than that it was just this little one-off thing and everything was fine until yesterday. That's less credible.
If there was a change, it was, like I said, there was that one incident that happened before, but like I did really actually get over that. And beyond that, like it was.
Dahlia, we had a one-on-one talk before the stream, and we got to a point where
we talked for like 30 minutes.
It would be useful for other people to see us try to have this conversation and maybe learn from it. If it's not your cup of tea or it's not what people want to see, we can stop. This was an attempt to be helpful. That's it. And Chris and I both wanted to try it. If it's something you'd rather we take back to the dungeon or whatever, we're glad to do that. The topic was conflict and trauma, and I was trying to demonstrate that and give a real world example, like a live example of it. But I was trying to wrap it up anyway. If Chris has anything he wants to like kind of tie up with.
I was just trying, what I was trying to tie up by saying that like I do want to keep working with you. I don't feel like any build up or whatever you want to call it between us is any more or less extreme than you would see between any friend.
It's an issue for me for the reasons I expressed earlier, because
right, yeah, I know. I get that.
Makes me question what I can trust or not. Because the image I had of, just like my last job where I thought we were this happy team, and I thought me and you and Lib were this really strong team. That image that I had, I found out was not an accurate image. And so that throws up, like, I really feel my autism at that point. And that's the point where it starts to feel like a disability. When I'm sitting alone by myself, I don't feel it at all. This is where I'm like, fuck, I really am disabled. I really am bad at picking this stuff up. And if I could see it sooner, it wouldn't get to this point. But then I think, like, part of the issue is that no one told me anything. So, like, what was I supposed to pick up on? I didn't have the information that I needed to have the full picture. And that's part of the frustration. And that's where the lack of trust comes in. And so for me, that's what this is about. It's about, if all this stuff was building up, then the picture I was going with was not the actual picture, and you didn't communicate that to me. And that's the only way I would have known that things were different than I thought they were, just like my coworkers and the supervisor.
It's fair. It wasn't an intentional, like, sleight or sleight of hand or something like that. It was simply, I mean, in my mind, it was kind of like I didn't say this kind of things.
This is an example of those distorted things that you haven't, like, people get in their head about me, that, like, I read them and I'm like, wow, where are they getting that from? I promise you, there's nothing like that in my head. I'm here every day. I'm taking a day off tomorrow. I'm going to be here on Friday. I might even be here tonight after Survivor. I'm going to be here on Saturday. I'm not normally a fear-based person. I'm more of an anger-based person. So that's a little head story.
Okay, now, like, so there is a major difference there between us. I think that could be mentioned, is that, like, my dad's a very anger-based person, and so I part of my reaction to that is I became a much more fear-based person, and I didn't even think of those terms until just now. But, like, I am a much more.
Well, we need to look at how long-term compatible that is, especially considering the type of environment I'm trying to build here. it may not be built for fear-based people, and so I might need to find.
I don't want to be a fear-based person. I try.
Well, you can't like that. Might be out of your control. Same with me being anger-based. Like I just take that as a given. Some people are shame-based, guilt-based, fear, anger, whatever. Moose.
I mean, I don't know. I love you, man. I don't want this to. I really don't feel. I don't feel like this needs to be the end of anything. But like, I can't. You know.
I need to make sure we're moving in the same direction, and I've questioned that for a while, and I need to have the trust, and I don't know if I have that anymore, because I'm always gonna like wonder if something like if things are really like they seem, or if they're holding something back and there's really something they're concerned about, but they're just not telling me. It sets up that situation.
Well, I mean, I really apologize that one like it just seems I mean it's not silly. Don't take this as a dismissive statement, but it feels to me like such an anticlimactic type thing because it wasn't I mean whenever going into the instigation of the argument, I didn't realize it was personal or important to anybody, and I was trying to be funny and flippant about it, and instead like I feel like I ruined like a partnership. And
what I'm concerned about started way before yesterday. It was the breakdown in our
that breakdown wasn't
ability to collaborate. We were a very strong collaborative team for a while, and at some point that broke down, and I assumed it was because of things going on in your personal life that were affecting. I did not know I was part of the reason it was breaking down. That is what I'm concerned about more than anything that happened yesterday.
Well,
I'm working at that end of the pipeline. If you're at yesterday, we're at completely opposite ends of the issue.
If that's the case, like think of it like this. Then this is the last thing I'll say. And
I'm so scared of Tommy and Paul. I'm quaking, Hank. This is how like whack your inner narrative is. Go ahead, Chris.
Mine is what?
Hank, go ahead. I'm sorry, I got distracted by a troll. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I do want to kind of wind this down, though. But
no. The last thing I was going to say is that if in any way anything you've done has contributed, in any way, in any negative sense to my mental health, whatever you're going to call it, or whatever you're saying.
Maybe not that, but what happened, like our relationship impacted that.
If anything that you've done has impacted that, it has impacted it far less than my general state of my general mental state, and you're far more important and more helpful and more positive and influence my life than let's say the Social Security Administration is, or something like that. I the things that are affecting my mental health are things that are much larger than any specific person. And like I said, I mentioned the other person earlier, like that affected my mental health because it made me angry in a way that I don't really get angry. But these little things that I feel like you feel like are me saying like that there are these major issues, like to me they honestly aren't as major as I know, because I would. And earlier when we were talking,
okay, so then
earlier when we were talking, whenever we were saying the things, I was trying to explain where that came from, but I hadn't actually gotten to the point to explain the fact that it didn't, but they really weren't that important.
So then I'm back to my earlier sense that whatever happened between us came from your end, the stressors in your life, and your inability to care for yourself in a way that allowed you to continue to be stable. And I had very little impact on that, which is my original impression. I had no idea I was involved at all. So now I'm involved, but just a little bit, but it was mostly you. Is that the new version?
I mean, it's not the new version. That's the version I was trying to get to in the first place.
Okay, I know the new version of my understanding, not of your story. Yeah. Am I on the page? Am I close? Am I getting hot?
That is the best possible wording of it I can think of right now. Yes.
Okay, then what I think, if that makes it even easier to come up with a solution, because the solution, which was what you were starting in January, where you were going to get yourself stabilized. You were going to get your financial situation stabilized, your physical situation. You were going to get your health stabilized, your emotional health, your mental, all of that stabilized, all of the stress. And what I saw from the stress pattern was that it was likely to be persistent. It was likely to be lifelong. It didn't just seem like a little one-off thing that needed to get resolved. So I think that is the solution. I don't know that we're in the same place right now. And you might have been in the beginning, but at some point you got destabilized to the point that it started to impact our ability to continue streaming at the quality we were doing. And I think we need to get you back to the Chris that you were before that started to happen. And then we can evaluate our potential. But right now, if that is the cause of it, if it's mostly that and just a little bit of me, that's where we need to address the solution. And I've talked about it on stream. I've tried to give you insight on stream from how I see it and my experience working with similar situations. There's people that have offered off-stream support. I've offered to talk to you off stream and help you come up with some strategies or organize. I've met several people. I remember one day we talked about how the community can maybe be helpful in helping you to organize your chaos somewhat and come up with some kind of plan. And so all of that has been offered. I can continue to offer that. That's how I can be part of the solution, but it has to come from you. It has to come from you cleaning your room and you getting the intrinsic motivation to do that. Because until you take control of the wheel, the chaos is going to continue to come from you. And I'm not taking the fall for it anymore. Now that I know that that's what it is.
Okay. I never intended you to take the fall for it. I was never trying.
It seemed like, like between Lib and then you yesterday, I was being made to be more part of a problem than it looks like I actually was. Because if I'm part of the problem, I will own my share of it. But then if I'm not, take care of your shit on your end. But I'm getting mixed messages as to how much of an extent this is on my shoulders versus yours.
I'm not saying, okay, first, those are two different statements. On one hand, I'm not saying that you are to blame for these things. And I'm also not saying, sorry, I'm getting really confused. I'm not saying that those things are your fault, but I'm also not. I wasn't saying that in the first place. That was never my. It came out in an argument that got really heated really fast, and took me in blind.
Right now we're looping because I'm concerned with whatever caused the breakdown between us to start, which was months ago, and you keep going back to yesterday. So we can't even stay
months ago. I thought maybe weeks. I didn't even know you're talking months ago.
No. What happened with us when you started to deteriorate was, you can go back and start watching this because you can see it on the streams happen. It was started a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
With your life stressors, and I started to talk about your self-care and burnout and the concerns I was seeing and the patterns I was noticing. I brought all of that up on stream multiple times, and that started months ago. So that's what I'm talking about. And you're telling me, oh, well, that wasn't me. That's all stuff going on in you that you were supposed to take care of, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to take you at your word for that. I think you should continue to go and take care of that. I'm going to remove any stress I might be adding from that. While you do that, I don't think it's good for me to try to be part of that and have you stabilize at the same time. And then once you get stabilized and back to the point you were at when we started collaborating, we can pick it up from there and see how it goes.
Right. You do kind of realize that. I mean, I just don't know if you're realizing this or not, but you're basically saying like, go figure your shit out on your own. See you
Chris,
later.
nobody can clean your room but you. What do you need from me? What kind of support can I give you?
That's not what I'm saying. I mean, it just feels very.
Well, you know what? You can be a big boy and take care of your feelings. Because if you're on the same page as I am about where I want to take this mental health thing, you're going to need to be able to do that and help other people to do it. So you need to be able to model it. And I'm willing to talk to you off stream. I'm willing to continue on Discord or whatever. But I do want to wrap the stream up for now.
Do what you need to do.
Okay. Well, I'll do that. And no stream tomorrow, and I will be back Friday at 2 p.m. Central.
I'll probably stream tomorrow if anybody wants to stop by. It won't be Outliers. It'll be whatever, but I'll stream for tomorrow.
I honestly kind of think you and Lib should start your own channel. I think it would be a good one. You have a good chemistry together. Huh?
He's not talking to me either.
Why is he not talking to you? I hope he's not punishing you for whatever happened with us.
He hasn't answered last few messages in him. So
well, that would be really more immature than I thought he was.
I mean, he could just be busy too. It's not.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, let's not.
It's actually not unusual for him not to answer me.
Yeah, you're right. It does. Yes, you're right. So
I'm not taking it personally, but
I take all of that back. Not even. It's not a breakup. It's a. Go get yourself together. Let me know how I can help. And if you're interested in what we started as, I'd love to have you back. You know, we were going to be the Meow Wolf of streaming. So when that Chris is able to come back, please come back. And if I can help you get there, let me know. But it's not something I can do for you. All right. Well, we'll see, Provo. We'll see. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up. And tonight's the Survivor finale. By the way, we'll be in the Discord at 10 p.m. Central watching it. It's almost like don't even waste your time showing up for the finale tonight because it was such a good season that you're depriving yourself if you don't start from the beginning. So if you haven't seen it so far, save it for the full season. But for those of us who are following it, we'll be in the Discord doing the finale tonight. And maybe we'll stream afterwards. Okay. Well, I do. I learn a lot from it. It helps me learn interpersonal dynamics and stuff. The kind that learns stuff from Survivor and Big Brother. Okay, well, I'll be around. All right. Well, take care, everybody. We'll be back on Friday or maybe tonight.